We're in a climb. We just departed from Bravo Lima Mike Airport to MJX, Ocean County Airport. We're in autopilot heading mode, vertical speed up 900 feet a minute, about 90 knots. The standby gauges, altitude climbing, artificial horizon, attitude indicator pointing up, airspeed where it should be, both tanks, flaps are up, trim is where it should be. So we're all looking good. So we've got the altitude standby for 2000, that's going to capture at 2000. Now in our flight plan page, we've got Bravo Lima Mike to MJX. Like I said, we can put the flight plan over here also, and that'll be great. So what we'll do is we'll put the approach in for procedure, and we'll select approach, and that'll be at MJX. And for the approach, we're going to select vectors to, but not the ILS. We'll go back one, procedure, select approach, and that's what we want to select, ILS approach, MJX. There you go. We're going to make a change. ATC gave us a change. So expect the GPS approach for number 24 LPV. So we'll enter that. We'll go direct to Leuven and barometer. We'll stick that in at put it in at 300 feet. Not knowing what it really is, but just to put an arbitrary number in there. Load that. And now we got the approach. Now here's where we're flying. Right now we're flying nowhere, because we need to point it somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ATC to tell us, ATC, can we go direct, Leuven? Yeah, let's go direct to Leuven. So let's get a cursor in there. But first, after Leuven, we do not want to enter the hold, so delete the hold. Clear that, remove the holding pattern, yes. Go back to Leuven, direct to Leuven, activate that, and say yes, that's good. It's flashing direct Leuven. On our display over here, let's go back up. There's our direct Leuven. But why is it not going to Leuven? The answer is we had to put in navigation, and now it's going to make a right-hand turn to intercept that course direct Leuven. So we captured 2000, like we said. We're going direct Leuven. We're 5 miles from it. Bearings 237. That's our scoreboard, known as the navigation bar. G1000 terms. So going direct Leuven, what we'll do is we'll actually just recenter that direct Leuven again and activate that, so we don't have to turn into the bearing 2. We could go right there, which actually coincides pretty nicely with our inbound course. So now we're clear for the approach. You said, okay, report inbound. We're inbound now. We're going direct Leuven. Initial approach fix. So now we'll put in an approach. And now we have a glide path indicator for standby, because it's an LPV approach. Okay, come back into power a little bit. Got to fly the airplane also, Alright, so we're looking for the approach to capture at 2,000 feet is where we want. 1980 is good. And we're going to go to Leuven, and then we're going to go to JITP, and that's where it should start capturing the glide path. So where we want to be. Gas on the cow's mixtures props. The tank is on. Selector for the fuel is on the fullest tank. Fuel quantity is good on the engine gauges, so that's great. Flaps are up. 115 knots. Still cruising along. 1.8 miles from Leuven. We're still going to go 2,000 feet. And looking good. Our transponder, ATC wants an ident. We'll put an ident on that. Transponder. Double check GPS steering. Autopilot altitude. And now we got it. Anticipation to the next waypoint in 7 seconds, and heading of 243 inbound. Let's do 243 inbound, even though it's on steering. Just, you know, people like to bug it. That's where you go with that. Okay, good idea to bug it. Come back to Leuven. Now we're at Leuven. Next stop is Jidpe. Okay, at this point, we still want to be at 2,000 feet, according to the approach plate. To be a far day, you can see the airport all the way out in the distance. Right now, 4 miles from Jidpe. So what we're looking for is the glide path for the localizer performance with vertical navigation, LPV. To play in, put the flight plan here so you can follow it along. Right now, we're going to see Leuven to Jidpe. Counting down 3 miles, 3.3, 243 inbound. And Jidpe is where it's going to block in glide path. That's what we want to do. The glide path is standing by up there on the display. At this point, 2 miles out, you start slowing the plane down. Let's bring it back. 2,200 RPM. We did a landing checklist. Engine gauges look good. Let's bring it down to 2,000. Holding the altitude with the autopilot. Everything looks like it is supposed to. Our barometer minimum is 300 feet. And we're looking for 1.3 miles to Jidpe and glide slope capture for vertical guidance. Airspeed slowing down. Good, come back on the airspeed a little bit to 2,000. We'll maintain about 90 knots. Holding out 2,000 feet, 1980 technically. There's a 1980 in standby gauge. Our airspeed and standby gauge. Attitude indicator, standby gauge. All looks good. Airspeed looks good. Moving right along. All right, half a mile from Jidpe. There it is. Next anticipation in 6 seconds, 5 seconds. Counting down. All right, we want to start heading down. So you're going to do it manually or the glide slope. There it is, just kicked in. Airplane nose down. Come back on the power at 1,800. Still no flaps. Very nice. 1,800 we set on that. Okay. We could actually take the altitude and change that to 300 feet. There you go for the barometer. Just keep everything in sync. Glide slope looks good. Airspeed, come back. Let's get to 90 knots in the descent. We went through the landing checklist already. It's fuel injectors. There's no carburetor heat, but mixtures rich, prop, fixed pitch, but gear down, fixed gear, but okay, check that. All right, 1.6 miles to WikiQ. And WikiQ has a 940-foot stop for our descent, but we're on the glide path, so we just want to make sure we don't violate that, even though we're on an automated approach. Okay, 1,000 feet from 300 on this approach point. And there we go. Looking good. All right, so we're at WikiQ. And when we get there, half a mile away from it, looks like at this point we have visual.
2 mile final runway 24.
There you go. Thank you, courtesy of our friends at ForeFlight. Yeah, 2 mile final. ForeFlight syncing with the X-plane, which is pretty cool. It's on my left, so probably out of view for you guys. But we're inside of WikiQ, runway 24. And let's put in 10 degrees of flaps. Flap indicator 10 degrees. Still on vertical guidance, pitch down to compensate for the added lift of flaps. Glide path still looks good. What are we looking for? We're looking for 300 feet. Vazzy lights out there, 2 white, 2 green. 2 white, 2 red. Correction. What's the green?
500.
Yeah, 500 feet. Okay, let's check that. Yep. It says 500, but you remember that this is on our airspeed tape. That's MSL. So there you go. And we're 200 feet. It's flashing from our minimums. And it's flying down automatically. We'll keep it going. Keep it going. Looks like you can hit the trees, but really it's just an illusion, as they say, because Vazzy lights look good, but that doesn't mean anything. Maybe they're bent. But it looks good, coinciding with the glide path. That's our minimum shouting out on the G1000. Thank you very much, Mr. G1000. You're right, the minimums all looks good. And that's great. All right, take the autopilot off. Disengage on the yoke. Come in with that. Come into the runway. Good. Just nice. Okay, well, we'll get there. We'll get there. There it is. Welcome to MJX.